Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing first impression / overall thoughts on the Charlotte Tilbury Insta Look in a Palette Gorgeous Glowing Beauty. You guys know I recently hauled this and I have finally gotten around to do this look. The name of this Insta palette is such a long name. That's one thing that I wish that were different about these palettes. I wish they had kind of like a simple name you can remember, but this one's really long. And so this was a limited edition palette that Charlotte Tilbury came out with for the holidays with a limited edition packaging. None of the instant look in a palettes have this kind of packaging. They all just have the typical plain burgundy like you know, type of packaging that Charlotte Tilbury usually has. And so this is the only one that has this beautiful star with like this holographic kind of effect to it. Let me show you what it looks like on the inside. You have a nice sized mirror up here, and then you have these really pretty, what seems to me like chocolatey, dusty rose kind of eyeshadows that are happening here. It's all a theme. You have steps, so it's all numbered. You prime, enhance, smoke, and then number 4 would be applying your bronzer. Number 5 would be this cheek color. Number 6 would be this cheek color. And then number 7 would be the highlight shade, which is right here. And on the mirror, again, it has a really nice touch with the star right there on the corner, if you guys can see that. Anyway, I hauled this honestly specifically for this shade right here. It has like that red undertone, and you guys know how much I love red. And essentially also, I mean, the packaging is amazing, but that color right there really got me. Now there's been a lot of controversy between the dusty, is it the stone rose Insta Look in a palette? Correct me if I'm wrong about that name down below in the comments, but people were saying that it was very similar to the holiday palette. It is similar, but this shade right here I feel is much deeper than the rose palette. Before we get started, in case you guys are wondering, I have put on my Bare Minerals Original Foundation with the Bare Minerals Mineral Veil as a setting powder. And then I have primed my lids with the Urban Decay Eyeshadow Primer Potion in the anti-aging formula. And as a bonus, I was able to pick up the Pillow Talk Lip Cheat and lipstick in Pillow Talk Medium, which I'm going to use with this look. So let me pick up my hair so I don't look like a psycho. And then let's get started. So the first thing we're gonna do is the eyes, and I'm gonna follow this step by step because I'm curious to see the method to her madness. You guys know I'm a big fan already. I'm excited. Let's get started. So I'm gonna go in with a Bare Minerals wet to dry eyeshadow brush. This is a brush that you can use on wet and dry eyeshadows, and I'm gonna go into the first shade right here, and I'm gonna use that all over my lid. And I'm gonna go with a light hand because, as we have noticed from my last video that I did on her Pillow Talk eyeshadow palette, her eyeshadows are very, very pigmented. Okay, and I'm gonna use that all over the lid. This is a really pretty sparkly shade. And I'm bringing this all the way up to my brow bone. It's not the color of my skin. It has sort of like a taupey silver undertone. And I'm wondering if the camera is gonna pick up on that. So I am going in with a light hand because I don't want to look like a disco ball. Now I've heard some people say that the formula of these shadows in this palette are not the same quality as her quads or her bigger panned palettes like her Pillow Talk palette, but so far I know I've only used one shade. The pigmentation is there for me, so not really seeing any patchiness. It's not hard to blend. I'm getting a nice even color. Next I'm gonna go in with my Bare Minerals crease brush, and I'm gonna go into the second shade right here. And just so that you can see, this shadow right here didn't have much kick up, which tends to be a theme with her eyeshadows, and I like that. I'm gonna dip into that second color and I'm going to enhance my eyes, which is pretty much just use it as a transition shade. That's what I interpret enhance as. So already I'm going in with a very light hand, and you can see how pigmented her shadows are. I'm literally just dipping my brush in there. Again, this is another shadow that is very easy to blend. I'm not finding any issues, any problems. Just want to let you know that the first shade I used looked very sparkly, but it is a satin finish from what it feels like when I was applying it and putting it on my eyelid. This second shade that I'm using is another satin shade. It is a light chocolatey brown, but it has this very fine milled, it's like very fine milled, not glitter, but a kind of sparkle. It's like there's like a sheen to this color. It's not a flat matte from what I'm looking at in the pan, and when I apply it, it's not a matte. The third shade is completely matte. So anyways, as you can see, these shadows are basically blending themselves. I'm really not having to work too much to make this work here. Now I'm gonna go in to the last shade, the third shade, which is a matte shade, which is my favorite shade. And then we're gonna use this to smoke. Again, I'm very lightly patting my brush in there because I have a feeling. You see that? See how pigmented that is? I knew it. And we're just gonna concentrate this color on the outside of the lid and blend that into the crease. How was your Valentine's Day? I hope you guys had a wonderful time. And I truly mean that, whether you were alone or with someone, I truly believe that you can have just as much fun by yourself than you can with somebody. Your happiness cannot rely on another individual. And I spent many Valentine's days by myself before I met my husband, and I was perfectly content I never hated on people who had a couple. I was actually very happy for them. So I don't understand that philosophy of, oh, you know, that kind of haterade that people drink because they don't have someone and they're bitter about it. And they're just, you know, they throw shade on people who are happy and do want to celebrate Valentine's Day. You know, to each his own. If you don't like it, that's fine, but you know, don't talk crap. That's all I'm saying. Okay, so I pretty much concentrated that color on the outside, and then I've just been blending that in, dragging it in from the outer corner inward in this kind of motion. And then I'm gonna go in with the same shadow brush, and I kind of just want to just soften these inner edges a little bit. Perfect. I love these chocolatey browns that have this red undertone. Now, I'm gonna try something. I'm gonna go in with my Morphe M431 pencil brush, and I'm gonna smudge that third matte shade on the bottom and top lash line. So, wish me luck. This could be a disaster. Anyway, I had a great time. My husband and I went out for dinner. And we celebrated the week before because he is currently, I'm gonna drag it all the way on the bottom lash line. He's on a work trip. He has a show this Valentine's Day weekend, and so we celebrated the week before. We usually, I can't remember when was the last time we actually celebrated Valentine's Day on Valentine's Day. We always celebrate either the week before or the week after, just because we really find that the quality of the food at restaurants is really bad on those days. It's slammed. And so if we're gonna pay a lot of money to go out to eat, you know, to a nice restaurant, we want the food to be a lot of, you know, good quality. We also don't like the having dinner. It's my dog. I hope it's not the UPS guy, because he's never gonna stop. Okay, it's not. Anyway, so we also don't like to go to a restaurant on that day because it's just so slammed, and it's hard to hear yourself think or talk because there's so many people in the restaurant. Next, I'm gonna go in with a, oh no, not next. I forgot to smudge it on the top lash line. Let's try that again. This is gonna be interesting. Let's see how I'm gonna get in there. Anyways, another thing I get every year on Valentine's Day are Godiva cherry cordials. It's a seasonal thing. They only take them out on Valentine's Day. And last year though, they took them out for another holiday. I can't remember which one it was, but it's not, normally it's only for Valentine's Day. And those are my favorite. And every time Valentine's Day comes, my husband buys me a good amount of those because he knows I love them. He loves them too, but he buys a good amount because I'm not sharing with him. So, all right, so I just smudged that very, very lightly on the top lash line. Next, we are going to go in, oh, I did want to show you the pan on this. This eyeshadow had much more kick up than these two, but even then, it's not a lot. Next, the fourth step here would be bronze. And I'm gonna go in with a Bare Minerals angled brush, and I'm just gonna lightly tap that in. And just lightly bronze my face. Do you guys have a specific restaurant you guys like going to on Valentine's Day? We don't have a particular restaurant that we like to go on Valentine's Day, but we do have a restaurant we go to every year for our wedding anniversary, and that's Bull and Bear. But for Valentine's Day, we kind of just try new things. Last year we did Fleming's. Actually, for the past 2 years, we've been, no. Last year we did Fleming's. The year before that, we tried Ruth Chris. We didn't like it. And then another year we tried Capitol Grill. We usually like doing steakhouses. But we hadn't tried any of those steakhouses, and we were wondering what the big fuss was about. So we made it a point to go every, you know, Valentine's Day and try a new steakhouse. So you guys know I bronze very lightly. Now, in reference to the shade of this bronze, I like it, but I don't think I like it more than her Film Star and Glow palette. This is definitely a different color. Just gonna add a little bit more to the edge of my face. Do you guys have like a favorite restaurant you go to? When I used to live in Miami, we used to always go to this little Italian restaurant, still my favorite Italian restaurant of all time, called Il Bambino. If you're ever in Miami and you want a good Italian, authentic Italian, try that restaurant. It's amazing. Okay, I just wanted to let you know the bronze shade in this palette had a lot of kick up. So, all right, step 5 is this like shade that's supposed to be a cheek color. I'm not really sure about that. That's not gonna be a cheek color for me. That's looks like an eyeshadow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix 5 and 6. This is more of a cheek color. This is some sparkly, shimmery like shade. This is a matte shade down here. You guys already know this is gonna, oh, I understand. It's supposed to be kind of like, I guess, well, like an enhancing blush, right? Like her blushes. Oh, guys, I don't know how much I love enhancing blushes. I think I may have picked up too much. We'll see. We'll apply this with a light hand. Anyways, back to what I was saying. So yeah, we just celebrated the weekend before. It was very calm. We really enjoyed it. We had a great time. Oh, it's nice. It is, when you mix those two shades, it is enhancing. And you guys know that for my oily skin, I'm gonna like this for the first 2 hours, and then once those oils start to protrude, I'm not gonna really enjoy too much this color. So I'm really just blending that in, very subtle. Next, I'm going to go in with some brow gel and mascara. I'm not gonna bore you with applying this on camera. I will go ahead and apply this and I will be right back. Okay, so I applied eyebrow gel. I used my Chanel eyebrow gel and I applied my Chanel mascara to my top and bottom lashes. Now for the next step, I'm gonna use the highlight shade, which is the last step in the palette, and I'm using a Real Techniques contour brush to apply that to my cheekbones. Ooh, it's a really pretty highlight. It's so subtle, it's like I feel like it's melting into my skin. I love it. This is a problem. This woman is gonna leave me bankrupt. And I'm sorry for those of you who are watching this right now and you're telling me, girl, I know, and you're gonna leave me bankrupt because you're reviewing her products. I know, it's a vicious cycle, I know. I'm sorry. I'm trying to bring you nothing but the best. Okay, I'm just gonna apply that to my cheekbones. Okay, you can definitely build this up because I went in twice on this side and look how bright that looks. So we're gonna buff that out. We're gonna buff that out with the other side that's clean. The highlight shade had like almost no kick up. All right, that's much better. All right, now let's do lips. I'm so excited. I was finally able to purchase the lip liner and lipstick. I purchased them through Bloomingdale's because Bloomingdale's is having, they have a lot of beauty events when you own their credit card. And it's like this time they were having, if you spend $150, you got $25 worth in gift cards. And so I purchased a couple other items and I used my $25 gift card to purchase this little combo right here. All right, so I'm gonna go in with the lip liner first. I know my lips are sort of stained, but that shouldn't be an issue. Okay. This shade is definitely deeper than her original Pillow Talk color. But I feel like this color is like that matte shade in this palette that I love. I got this shade because I was curious to see how it would look on my skin tone. And I know you're thinking, oh Isabel, why don't you just swatch it? Well, at my local Bloomingdale's, they don't have a Charlotte Tilbury counter. So all of her products are online. I'm gonna go in with the Pillow Talk lipstick in medium. And it's just a typical Charlotte Tilbury packaging. And so I winged it, I just ordered it. And hoped for the best. Okay. It's definitely dark. Darker than what I'm used to, but as a fall or feel like a date look, I dig it. It's like a chocolate brown, but with a red undertone. I like it. I like it. This color would look really good with the date version of the Pillow Talk palette that I just reviewed. If you guys have that palette, this lipstick and lip liner, bomb with that look. Okay, so let's talk about my overall thoughts. This completes the look, by the way. case, I mean, sometimes I don't even know if I'm supposed to announce it. Let me fix my hair a little bit here so I don't look crazy. Okay, I'm gonna close my eyes so that you guys can see the final look. This whole palette gives me fall vibes. I love these chocolates with those red undertones. The eyeshadows were like butter. The only shade in this palette I found was a little messy was the bronzing shade. I got a lot of kick up from that shade right there. I do like the shade, but if I had to compare it to the Glow palette, the bronze and her bronze and glow palette, that shade I find complements my skin tone much better. I feel like that's like my perfect bronzing shade. This to me is a bit more orangey, if that makes sense. It has a little bit more of that orange tinge to it. These shades of up here, they're just so nice, so gorgeous. And I kind of just used every color in here for this video. But if you really look at this palette, you don't have to use all of these shades every time you use this palette. You can really just use these two shades or just do a one shade look and really diffuse it into the eyelid and make it a day look. You can do so much with this, which is why I picked one of these up, because I've seen them. She's had these forever, but none of them really called my attention because I felt like either they were way too dark or they looked way too much like her Pillow Talk Quad palette. But when this one came out and I saw these shades right here, I was like, yes, that is for me. The highlight shade I really enjoy. It does remind me a lot of the shade she has in her Bronze and Glow palette. Overall, I really like it. The only thing I have to say I'm not a fan of is that whole cheek pop shade with the blush. You guys know I don't like that luminous glowing blush. I rather just use the matte blush and use that as another highlight or as another eyeshadow shade. This can most definitely be an eyeshadow shade for sure. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this look. I think this is amazing. It retails for $75. I got this off of the Charlotte Tilbury website. It is still available. You can still purchase this palette even though it came out during the holidays. Nordstrom and Sephora were carrying this palette, but they no longer have it. You can still purchase it on the Charlotte Tilbury website. Thank you so much for watching, but stay tuned because now we're gonna get into some swatches, and I want to also compare the bronze and highlight shade of this palette to her actual Bronze and Glow palette. So stay tuned, I'll be right back. Okay, so that first shade that you're looking at is the prime shade, that first sparkly shade. Then we have the second shade, which is the enhanced shade, which is that brown with those very light pinky shimmery undertones. And then we have that beautiful red matte shade, which is the smoke shade. The next shade would be the bronzer shade. And next to that is the cheek pop shade, which is that shimmery pink you see right there. And then we have the blush shade right there and the highlight shade. And as you can see, it's a very light powdery highlight that I have really had to build up. Next, I want to get into comparison swatches between the bronzer and highlight in this palette and the bronzer and highlight in her Bronze and Glow palette. Stay tuned. All right, so the first bronzing shade here is going to be from the Instant Look in a palette, the Gorgeous Glowing Beauty. You can see that is
way darker than the shade right next to it, which you can barely see on camera. And you guys, I really tried to build that up. That is a bronzer from the Film Star Bronze and Glow palette. One is much deeper than the other, and I find that the bronzer in the Bronze and Glow palette, it has much more of a neutral undertone to it. Now let's move on to highlights. The first highlight is from the Gorgeous Glowing Beauty palette, and it's much whiter, much brighter, much powdery looking than the highlight right next to it that you can barely even see, even though I built up like a mother. The one right next to it, which is the last shade, is from the Film Star Bronze and Glow palette, and you can see that one is much more subtle than the other. So on a regular basis, I much prefer the Film Star Bronze and Glow palette, bronzer and highlight, versus the Gorgeous Glowing Beauty highlight, because it is just much more subtle. I feel that the Film and Bronze and Glow highlight, Film Star Bronze and Glow palette is goof proof. So for those of you who are not super great at bronzing and highlighting, that'll be the palette for you, because you really can't go wrong with it. Versus the other palette, the Gorgeous Glowing Beauty palette, you really have to use a light hand placement of these colors. You got to be a bit more precise with it and a bit more careful. Unless you have a deeper skin tone, then that's not an issue for you. But yeah, here are the comparison swatches.
All right, now that really completes this video. As you can see, the swatches from each palette were very different, and I still prefer this one when it comes to bronzing and highlight versus this one. I feel that I just like the undertones of this a lot more than this, because my skin is a bit on the lighter side. I feel that when I do have a tan, maybe in the summer, I would much more prefer the bronzing and highlight shades in this palette, as this one I don't think will show up too much on my skin. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and have a lovely weekend. Bye.